The history of Algeria is filled with intrigue, from its ancient origins to its modern independence. Number 10. The mysterious origins. Historians are still unsure about who exactly was the first to inhabit Algeria. However, we know that people have lived there for a very long time. They were known for their equestrian skills and military prowess, and they played a significant role in the Punic Wars, siding with Rome against Carthage. The Phoenicians founded Carthage in 814 BC on the northern coast of present-day Tunisia. It quickly became a major trading hub due to its strategic location near the Mediterranean Sea. Led by Arab armies from the Middle East, this conquest marked the beginning of Islam's spread into new territories. The Arab armies advanced rapidly, conquering vast areas of North Africa, including what is now Algeria, and the Iberian Peninsula in the 12th and 13th centuries. This expansion was part of a wider Ottoman effort to control the Mediterranean and project their power into the Western world. The Ottomans implemented a number of policies and reforms in Algeria, including the introduction of new agricultural technologies, the establishment of legal and administrative institutions, and the construction of public works such as mosques, schools, and hospitals. Early resistance efforts were met with brutal repression by the French colonial authorities. However, as the 20th century progressed, the movement for independence gained momentum. The Algerian War of Independence, which lasted from 1954 to 1962, was a particularly intense and violent period in this struggle. The conflict involved the Algerian National Liberation Army, or the FLN, and the French colonial forces. The war was marked by widespread atrocities and human rights abuses committed by both sides and resulted in the deaths of millions of Algerians. Despite the immense suffering caused by the war, the FLN ultimately emerged victorious and Algeria gained its independence on July 5, 1962. The road to independence was a long and difficult one, but the Algerian people's determination and sacrifices ultimately paid off. Since gaining independence, Algeria has worked to establish itself as a sovereign nation and has made significant strides in areas such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure. However, the country continues to face challenges such as poverty, inequality, and political instability. Nevertheless, the legacy of the Algerian War and the struggle for independence remains a defining moment in the country's history and continues to shape Algerian society and politics today. Despite these efforts, the Ottoman Algerian Empire faced a number of challenges, including attacks from European powers and internal rebellions. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. The French conquest of Algeria in 1830 marked the end of Ottoman rule and the beginning of French colonialism in the region. Despite its relatively short duration, the Ottoman Algerian Empire left a lasting legacy on the region, influencing its culture, society, and politics. It was founded by the jurist and preacher Mohammed bin Abdulwahab in 1121 and reached its peak under his successors, Abdi el-Mumin and Abu Yusuf. The Almohads implemented a number of reforms, including the promotion of a strict form of Sunni Islam, the establishment of new cities, and the construction of impressive mosques and other public buildings. However, internal conflicts and rivalries with other dynasties, including the Marinids and the Habsburgs, eventually led to the decline and fall of the Almohad Empire. Despite its relatively short duration, the Almohad dynasty left a significant legacy on North Africa. Its rulers played a crucial role in the spread of Islam, and their contributions to architecture, art, and literature continue to be celebrated today. This rapid expansion was due to several factors, including the use of superior military tactics, the appeal of Islam to local populations, and the lack of strong opposition from the existing powers in the region. Algeria became a part of France and was ruled directly by the colonial authorities. This period was marked by significant social, economic, and political changes, including the introduction of French language and culture, the exploitation of Algeria's natural resources, and the suppression of any opposition to French rule. The French colonial administration implemented a system of indirect rule through a small elite class of native Algerians while maintaining tight control over the economy and key aspects of government. Despite the hardships and injustices faced by the Algerian people under French rule, this period also saw some progress in terms of infrastructure and public services. The French invested heavily in Algeria's economy, extracting valuable resources such as minerals and agricultural products, while also introducing modern technologies and institutions. However, these developments were largely geared towards serving the interests of the colonial regime. and did little to address the needs of the local population. As Islam spread throughout Algeria, it replaced the traditional beliefs and practices of the indigenous peoples. Mosques and madrasas began to dot the landscape, and Arabic became the dominant language. The Arab conquest also brought about political and administrative changes. The newly conquered lands were incorporated into the expanding Islamic, and Arab governors and officials were sent to administer These changes had a profound impact on the course of Algerian history, shaping its identity and laying the foundation for its future development. By the 7th century BC, Carthage was a wealthy city-state with a powerful navy and a vast empire that stretched from Spain to Egypt and the Iberian Peninsula from the late 11th to the early 13th century. The dynasty was founded by Yusuf ibn Tashfin in 1086, when he proclaimed himself the Emir al-Mu'minin, or Commander of the Faithful. The Almoravids initially focused on expanding their control over North Africa, conquering territories from the Atlantic coast of modern-day Morocco to the Egyptian border. As the dynasty grew, they faced challenges from various rivals, including the Almohads, a reformist Berber dynasty that emerged in the mid-12th century. The Almoravids' influence on the Iberian Peninsula, however, waned as the Christian kingdoms of Spain and Portugal launched a series of campaigns to reclaim territories lost to the Moors. Despite these setbacks, the Almoravid legacy continued to shape the political and cultural landscape of North Africa for centuries. Their emphasis on religious orthodoxy and their efforts to unify the Muslim world left a lasting impact on the region. Most of Carthage's wealth came from trade in goods such as olive oil, wine, and metals, but they also exploited their colonies for resources as well. Unfortunately for Carthage, they soon found themselves at war with the growing power of Rome. The First Punic War began in 264 BC and lasted for 3 years. Both sides fought over control of the Mediterranean, but it was Rome who ultimately won the war and gained control of the western Mediterranean. The Second Punic War saw Hannibal Barca lead an army of 46,000 men across the Alps and into Italy. Although he was able to defeat the Romans in several battles, Rome's superior resources and manpower eventually led to Hannibal's defeat. The Third Punic War ended with the destruction of Carthage and the enslavement or killing of most of its inhabitants. In fact, the Numidians had been in conflict with the Carthaginians since 400 BC, and it wasn't until Rome intervened that Carthage began to gain any ground. After the fall of Carthage, the western Mediterranean became a battleground for several Germanic and other peoples seeking to establish dominance. Among them were the Vandals, a Germanic people who migrated to North Africa in the 5th century AD. The Vandals were known for their fierce fighting skills and their love of plunder. In fact, their name has become synonymous with destructive behavior. The Vandals seized control of North Africa, including modern-day Algeria, and established the Vandal Kingdom. The kingdom prospered through trade and piracy, which helped them build up their wealth and power. However, by the late 5th century, the Vandals faced new threats from the Byzantine and Muslim forces. Despite their valiant efforts, the Vandals were eventually defeated and North Africa fell under the control of the Muslim conquerors. The Carthaginians established trading posts along the coast and moved into the interior, where they encountered the Even though the Numidians were not a centralized state, they were able to resist the Carthaginians through guerrilla warfare tactics. However, by the late 3rd century BC, the Numidians had split into several independent states. One of these states, however, under the reign of King Massinissa, would become the most powerful force in the region. Massinissa's army consisted of cavalry and light infantry armed with swords and spears, as well as archers and slingers. They also used chariots in battle, which proved effective against both the Carthaginians and the Romans. Unfortunately, after Massinissa's death, his successors engaged in civil war, which allowed Rome to conquer the Numidian kingdom. Archaeologists found prehistoric archaeological sites in the Sahara, dating back to at least 100,000 years ago, but perhaps as far as 2 million years. This makes Algeria one of the oldest continuously inhabited regions in the world. Over the centuries, many different civilizations rose and fell in Algeria, each leaving their own unique mark on the country's culture and history. But do you know which civilization first rose to prominence in the region? No. 9. The Numidians were an ancient Berber people who lived in North Africa during the Roman and Carthaginian era. Number 8. The rise of Carthage. As the Numidians struggled internally, another power rose to prominence in North Africa, Carthage. Number 7. The Vandals. Number 6. The Arab conquest. In the 7th century, the Muslim conquest of North Africa brought about a significant change in the religious and cultural landscape of the region. No. 5. The Almoravid dynasty. The Almoravid dynasty was a Berber dynasty that ruled over a vast empire in North Africa. Number 4. The Almoravid dynasty. The Almohad dynasty was a reformist Berber dynasty that ruled over a vast empire in North Africa. No. 3. The Ottoman Algerian Empire. In the 16th century, the Ottoman Empire expanded its influence into North Africa, establishing a province known as Algeria. No. 2. French Algeria. The French conquest of Algeria in 1830 marked the beginning of a new chapter in the history of the region. No. The Algerian War and Independence. The struggle for independence from French rule was a long and arduous process that involved multiple phases and actors. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.